All right, everybody, welcome back to Unsealed, the official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. I am Pastor Manti. You can call him Christopher, whatever you want, really. Doesn't matter, but please do say hello, who you are, where you're from, and please share this link to this video on YouTube, especially. Just copy and paste it. If you see what I shared on my socials, don't share that. Share your own version of it because that speaks a lot. Like, hey, I am actually referring this to you. I am actually thinking you should watch this because it's important or cool or fun or dumb or whatever you think. That's no problem. Just share it. Thanks in advance. Today is called Alternate History, Alternate Reality. And it's just something that I think we got to deal with because in the UFO world, in the Christian world, in any other part of the world, we've gotten to this point of, I'm a student of history, okay? It's one of my favorite subjects when I was at school, partially because I just want to know what happened in the past, but also why it matters. And the fact that history really isn't just things in the past, it's happening every day. And it's important to know that, so you're not fooled later by those who would want to change it or paper it over or say you didn't really see that event when it really did happen. Spinmeisters and governments and all that after the fact. You're not subject to that if you pay attention at the time that it's happening. Anyway, part of what I really enjoyed studying and learning about is the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's kind of dark, I guess, but I did enjoy it because, speaking of reality, it was very real. Very real. And the fear or panic or urgency of everything around that period and that whole crisis was not only urgent at the time, but very important going forward, because within a year of that event, John F. Kennedy would be murdered in broad daylight. And many things would change after that. And so, why do I bring this up? Because I want to strongly suggest and recommend that you take some time. I know, oh my gosh, I'm asking you to take time. Take some time out of your day, whether it be first thing in the morning or on your commute to work or before you go to bed or on the weekend, whatever. Get yourselves acquainted with the Jesse Michaels interview with Harald Malmgren, which ended up being Harald Malmgren's last testimony to the world, because he died very shortly after the interview. In the interview, however, even though he's 90 years old, he was not 90 in most, the average 90-year-old. He's extraordinarily well-spoken, sharp, cogent. You'll see. Just search for that. Jesse Michaels, Harald Malmgren. And most people, even like me, who are history nerds, had no idea this man existed. Even though he was right in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis as a 20-some-year-old whiz kid. And he was inserted literally in the generals' meetings about how to respond and what do we go to nuclear war over this. He was in the room. And so, that's pretty important. And he also afterwards was an advisor for the 4 presidents, I believe, after that. And so he's part of American history, very much so. Even though he didn't want to make himself known or put himself out there, he was known by the people with power in not only our country, but other countries like Russia and China specifically. And so listen to that interview. It's 3 hours long. Okay, it's 3 hours long, but it is worth it because so many historical things that apply and reality altering information is in there. And it's not the rantings of an old man. It's extremely, he's just recounting his life. What he did, what he saw, what he was told. And some of what he saw and what he did and what was told will blow your mind if we accept history as we've been told it. But as often happens, the real story is more than we're told. Yeah, I also want you to watch, we're in the middle of it right now. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have been releasing an interview with a man called Matthew Brown, who was the architect or the author of and a whistleblower of the secret SAP called Immaculate Constellation that was formed after 2017 in response basically to Lou Elizondo and the effort by him and folks around him to disclose the UFO issue even a little bit. And so watch that. Two hours of it has already come out. One more part is coming this week, or this week coming up. So in a few days. The thing that impacts me the most about the Brown revelations, I say revelation because it's information that's secret. And unless you think people are just blatantly making things up, we've got a problem. And not only one person, dozens of people are making the same thing up. But that's not true. I mean, anyone who looks into any subject, studies anything, or investigates anything, it's easy to know the difference between hearsay, just someone claiming something that someone else said, and direct experience and evidence and paperwork and money trails and paper trails, etc. And videos, in this case, many videos and photos, but the video is the most powerful medium there is. And what Matthew Brown came across, you should learn exactly what he found in those 2 hours, and now will be, I'm assuming, a third hour. You got a couple of 3-hour videos to watch, okay? But then you will see what Matthew Brown has said more than once already is it as an alternate reality. He says we're living in a world that's a dream, in his words, a dream. Like, okay, what are we talking about? The Matrix all of a sudden? I don't think it's to that level of what some people would call an artificial reality, like the simulation theory, it's called. Which that's paranoia. I don't buy that at all. But the impact that it would have if you had a full-on effort to put forward a version of history, and again, history just means facts. History just means what is real, what really happened in your world, in this planet, what really happened. That's history. Any effort to conceal what actually happened and to bring forward an alternative history where it never happened, or it kind of sort of maybe happened and we're not sure, if that's a deliberate thing done by however many actors, however many people, or other things, that's an alternate history now. It's the one that we are given, and then the one that actually exists could be different. Now, we should know this shouldn't be a big deal, really, to you, because just the past couple of decades, since the 70s, since I've been alive, I was born in 1975. Since I've been alive, you've had like the Church Commission and the CIA, for example. We know they lied and they did secret stuff. And even today, you'll hear people say, well, I don't really want to get into it because it would expose the understanding of events in history would be different. Like CIA officers will say that even now. I'm thinking of one in particular. But I can see how that's true. I mean, if your government, or some agency was involved in making sure the truth of a certain event didn't come out, then your understanding of history is flawed or wrong. And wrong on purpose is the issue. So if Brown is correct, and there is a small group, or we don't know actually how small, maybe it's as little as 12 people, probably more, but if it's international, in other words, it's not just one government behaving badly or one special access program that, oops, we really screwed up. Sorry about that, guys. The rest of the world, is totally has no idea what we're doing. What if it's not like that? If there actually is an international cooperation and every nation involved has agreed to hush it up and not talk about it and to say that didn't happen or that happened differently. I'm not just spewing out opinions here. Once you listen to those videos, once you listen to Malmgren and Brown, and you see side by side what we're talking about, even the accepted alternate history is not quite good enough. In other words, the accepted history is UFOs never happened. Well, something happened sometimes, but we don't know what it was, which is Roswell. And that's accepted even by the UFO community as like it's always been since in my lifetime, has been the beginning. That's like the genesis of this whole issue with we brought a craft crash, or it came down, or maybe it has something to do with it or whatever. 1947, that was the beginning of this whole thing. Even to the point where, again, many people who are think of this in a more spiritual term, that these UFOs are not aliens and they're not human, they're demonic, and they're things from the other side, and they're only brought over by Satanists having rituals in the 1940s, 1947, and all of a sudden, bloop, we have Roswell. So that must have been why they're here. Wait a minute. That's not the full story. The full story at least has another incident 14 years earlier. Not just something seen in the sky that no one can explain, or messed with some systems, or some city had a mass, seeing this or that or whatever. It's actually something, again, crashed or landed in Italy, not in America. But Harald Malmgren says this is true. David Grush says this is true. Like a fact, not like, well, this sort of I saw that might have happened. It's a fact with many, many corroborations and names named and dates and all that, of a craft. Something was discovered in Magenta, Italy in 1933. The government there covered it up. Because they didn't know what it was. It would be Hitler, right? It could be the Nazis. It could be the Americans. It's not our stuff in Italy. So what the heck is this? That whole situation, if anything, and even if you say nothing ever happened before that, which you really can't, but let's say you did. Now that is really the beginning, not 1947, not what Satan is calling them down from in California. This is now in Europe, half a world away, right in the middle of World War II, or as it's kicking off, or as these powers are coming up, like Mussolini and the European nations that eventually opposed each other, and there you go, World War II happens. You actually have 1933 as the beginning of this. And did it just sit there and it's a mystery now? I wonder where it is. No, because again, by people with actual historical evidence and records and experience in the government, in the deepest parts of the American government, like Malmgren, like Brown, like Grush, you have agreement that this 1933 craft was brought to America in the 1940s to Wright-Patterson Air Base in Ohio. How that all happened, there's some evidence of it. We don't know exactly when it happened, but apparently Mussolini was in power. They had to wait till he was out or wait till World War II was at a certain point. And then the predecessor to the CIA that was in Switzerland at the time, and they knew all about it. So they arranged for it to leave through intermediaries, not the government of Italy, but the Vatican, basically. The Pope tipped off the Americans, and what's called the Knights of Malta were involved in getting, because they have a big membership. And anyway, through that kind of system is how America got the craft to begin with, well before Roswell. That's an alternate history for you. Okay, even to not all the UFO world, but the accepted mythology, if you will, almost always starts in 1947, even with Roswell, Kenneth Arnold, right? Around that year, it really blew up. Now, that's true. That's true. All over America, people were seeing stuff, but the point is, it happened well before then. And this crash retrieval program, reverse engineering, whatever scientific sounding names you want to give it, that has been happening already. That's an alternate history, isn't it? Now you have a flow of time that no one knows, that no one's given insight to. And you can understand maybe, the secret in World War II, we can't reveal that we're having, lifting secret technology for God knows what it is, and we got to study it. Maybe it is the Germans, maybe it's the Russians. Who knows what this is? We got to go get it and find it. I understand. You understand a certain level of secrecy at that time. Sure. The Manhattan Project, the nuclear bomb, getting the advantage over the ally, or the Allies having the advantage over the Axis and all that stuff in World War II. You could see why that was kept very, very, very secretive for that purpose. But then once you drop the bomb, okay, like you can let go a little bit, like you can get it. Okay, it can come out now. And in fact, if we, as a nation, if we are really what we say we are, then we have to release all this stuff. It's not for some secret small group to keep forever and to keep out of everyone's knowledge. It's really highly not legal. But here we are. Okay, so now we've gone up. We actually have a craft. We have people seeing things. We have not only the Foo Fighters, for crying out loud. This has been around. People have seen it. People in our government, our military, the ones who are now making the decisions, have seen these things. They know they're not fake. They know they're not German. They know they're not Russian. And they know we're trying to get them. They're actively trying to acquire and study them to figure them out. Maybe we have inhabitants. Maybe we have pilots of these things. So it's known to a certain group exactly what's happening, the real history, the real reality. But then you've got Eisenhower didn't really like this, right? We had the famous military-industrial complex warning from him, and because he knew something was up that he couldn't get to, because they had already put the clamp down. This is the whole MJ-12 situation when they invented that in the 40s and 50s, to keep it from everyone, including the president of the United States, who should theoretically have all the clearances. There's no such thing as a clearance from the chief executive, supposedly, but there is, because they decided, this group, whatever, decided that it's in the best interest of the United States or the world that we don't let it out. And we're going to decide who gets in and out forever. It's never going to come out. And so Eisenhower got a little ticked off, and Kennedy came into office, apparently, if you listen to Malmgren, Harold Malmgren's interview, he said Kennedy knew before he was ever elected that the UFO issue was real because he saw them. And he knew about it being in naval intelligence, that there were, you can put two and two together there, that there are USOs involved, right? Things coming in and out of the water and the ocean in before he was elected, the 1950s. This is not a new thing. This is not new technology that we invented. This is not something you can just put on some kind of, you brush it off. Anyway, so Kennedy knew, and all of a sudden we have this right alongside. And again, this is the new kind of history that is being revealed right now, is that not only was the Cuban Missile Crisis happening, obviously that was the world peace, millions of dead people kind of threat hanging over instant, it might happen at any moment. Literally the same time, October 1962, you had nuclear testing happening in the Pacific Ocean, and new kinds, nukes with what you call EMP, or not EMP, directed energy, DEW aspects, electromagnetic weaponry and aspects to nuclear weapons. The fact that we're detonating them in the atmosphere, upper atmosphere, not under the water or on the water or under the ground or someplace where we can just see if they work. No, we're putting it out in space, basically. We're putting it in the upper atmosphere for some reason. And with this new component, with these directed energy weapon components, not only in the warhead, but we're working on weapons to bring things down in the skies with directed energy, because what we are using apparently is not good enough for something. Right. So again, this is all trying to teach us. History is trying to reveal itself. So in 1962, you have this very famous series of tests, and one of them is called Bluegill Triple Prime, and it was videotaped, it was recorded, and for a good reason, according to them, you'll only see officially a censored video now. If you watch that explosion, and there's this big piece missing, it's like a white triangle was placed over a part of the video, so you can't see something. To this day, not just classified in the 60s when it happened. Okay, well, we're testing something. If somebody sees this, they might get some kind of secret, I don't know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. It's still classified. What? Well, what's behind that triangle is a UFO was knocked down. You can see it. It came right up to the explosion of the nuclear warhead, and it fell out of the sky. So not only do we have it on video, you have testimony and records from Navy ships who were sent to recover it. And there were other UFOs involved when they went to recover it. It's wild. Okay, but again, listen to these videos. Watch this. These are serious people who were there. Malmgren was there in the White House. He knew about this test. He was brought to the newly created Nuclear Energy Commission in New Mexico to observe some materials from craft that had been acquired somehow, and he felt it with his hands. He is a first-hand witness to UFO metal or material. That's what he revealed. And it's weirder than that, okay? But the point is, that really happened, according to Harald. And it's with the big wigs of the Nuclear Energy Commission, with this guy who invented or came up with the plans for Area 51. Talked to him. Jeff Bezos' grandfather was the one who showed him these parts. It's wild, okay? But truth is wild sometimes. The real history is wild. That happened. And so not only Harald, he said, wait a minute, what else is going on here? There was this thing got knocked down by our test, and now you're showing me this material. I'm touching it, and it feels like nothing. It's like it should be heavy, but it's not. It feels like really different than anything I've ever touched, and now I'm feeling like something's talking to me when I picked it up. And so the word gets back to the president, because Malmgren is like, dude, there's something going on over here. And paraphrase. And so Kennedy and Johnson, before the assassination, obviously, demand to go down there to New Mexico to the I forget all the names of what they call the Nuclear Energy Commission or whatever in the HQ in New Mexico. Anyway, so they brought the president in, and after he was told what he was told, was immediately when he turned around, and we got documentation of this, friends. Immediately he goes around and contacts the Soviet Union, because remember, we just had this Cuban Missile Crisis. We got to find ways this not to happen again, not to threaten 100 million Americans with nuclear annihilation. That'd be nice. Kennedy gets brought down there, and all of a sudden goes to Khrushchev and the Soviet leadership and meets with them and says, we got to find out a way to deconflict over this UFO situation, because we know they're there. And we know you're seeing them. And so we don't want you to be confused one day, or us, to say, oh my gosh, that's the Russian, that's the Americans shooting at us, when it's not us. When that's not an American missile, that's a UFO by your stuff. So they have to be told that we know, and it's not us. That was the point. And through that, to maybe even not point nukes at each other for no good reason. Right? I mean, that was what Kennedy wanted. And all of a sudden, right on the heels of that meeting, and yes, we have notes and we have memos and date books and logs. His people, Kennedy's people, met with him immediately, and we don't know what was said, but shortly thereafter, he died. He was murdered, shot in the head. A conspiracy of some number. And how Malmgren, in his interview, he even said, he walked right up to the fact of, he said, there may have been other reasons, but one of the reasons he was killed was because he wanted to reveal the UFO secret to the Russians. And apparently that wasn't good. We can't do that. The super secret little group said, we can't have that. We, the rulers, determine that you can't do that even to the elected leader of the country. So it's clear, if this is all really happening, and all the evidence says that it did. So if all that's real, all this talk about pontificating about how America's system of government and our Constitution and our separation of powers and accountability, all that is lies. That's all dead and gone. It's all dead and gone. And it was gone in the 60s. To me, the turning point was the assassination itself. That Kennedy's death, his shooting in the head, might as well have represented America itself, the one that it was supposed to be accountable and not keep secrets and have true history and real people just trying to do the right thing and be different than the rest of the world and have a government that's not an oligarchy, right? That's not dictatorship. That's not controlled by the few or the unelected, like everyone else, basically, where this was supposed to be different. That's the whole point of the Constitution, right? This was supposed to be different. Well, as of 1962 or 1963, it ain't. It's not. That's the real history. How do I know? Because ever since then, we've never admitted to any of this, never unclassified, declassified any of it. That's what, when we say, or anyone that you hear say disclosure, this is what disclosure means. It means declassification. It means telling the truth that you have hidden on purpose. And there's, some issues have nothing to do with UFOs, but the big one does. The MK Ultra came out, and targeting American citizens came out, and wiretapping American citizens came out. All this stuff comes out, even though it's totally illegal. Well, there was some kind of accountability and admitting the truth to all that, but not this. It has been deemed too big to fail. It has been deemed you don't have the need to know. And that's where everybody gets the stonewall. Even if you're the president of the United States, even if you're the higher up, you have control of the SAPs in the Pentagon, special access programs. And you're responsible for keeping track of them. Admiral Thomas Wilson, I don't know, throw a name out there. And you're supposed to know about them all. And you don't. You find out that you don't. And when you try to flex your rank and your superiority of rank over other folks of private companies, you're told to go jump in the lake. You don't have need to know. You're not on my list. You're not on the pre-approved bigot list to know anything about what we're doing here. Well, that's what anyone who gets too close is told. And frankly, even those who give you that message, they give one that message that gets too near and pokes around too much and is told you don't have the need to know. Even the one who says that doesn't know everything. They only know their part. When the awful truth is the compartmentalization of this truth is required. It's not just something that happened by accident. Like, oh shoot, we divvied this up into so many parts now. We got to fix. No one wants to fix it. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's a feature to keep the secret at all costs. So you can't leak it all, even if one part of the secret, one part of the lie, one part of the program, one aspect, one compartment of all the different compartments. There might be 10, 12, 30 or more compartments, by the way. Even if one compartment goes wholesale whistleblower, the whole thing, top to bottom. Hey, we're Lockheed Martin. We want to tell you the truth. Over 70, 80 years, this is what we've been given. This is what we've been working on. This is the program. This is what it was called. This and that, this and that. This is what we've been trying to do. Okay, that might all be true, but there's not more information. They only know what they know. They're not cleared. They don't have the read-in. They are not part of the other compartments. They don't have the need to know why they were given this UFO part. They don't need to know what we're going to do with it once you break it or, figure it out, reverse engineer it. You don't need to know what the reason is. You don't need to know who came out of that flying saucer, by the way. And at the same time, it's on purpose like that. So no one person or group can spill all the beans. It's so that small group are the only ones who ever know. That's how you manage reality. That's how you manage history. Even if someone gets the total truth, they're like, look, I nailed you, man. This happened for real. You're like, they can even admit, yeah, it did, but it doesn't mean what you say, because where's the rest of the story? So the reality that the history, the accepted history, as it were, needs to be maintained. Not might be maintained. The maintenance, you send in your your car. I don't know, your car. You go to the mechanic once in a while. You got to get the oil changed. Got to get this replaced or that fine tuned, and the tires rotated and all. Like, that's maintenance is required. There is no such thing as a car with no maintenance. So this alternate history, or the accepted history, the one that we're told and the reality that we're told is real and true and all that, needs maintenance constantly. You need to take it in every once in a while to tweak it, to fix it, to get it recalibrated, to keep this dream illusion on the citizens, on the people. So because it's been determined, it's been decided that they cannot know real history. They cannot know real reality. So we're going to give an alternate that's close to it or comes up to it, but it's really a parallel, that they don't know everything, and it has to stay that way. So maintenance has to always occur. Now, take that as deep as you want, but it's a fact. If this is what we're dealing with, you are going to have to occasionally maintain it and perform acts of maintenance. So think about that. And when Matthew Brown, I'm telling you guys, don't listen to me on this. Go watch these source materials. When Matthew Brown says we're in a dream, and this dream has been perpetrated and pulled over your eyes, that's a very serious charge and situation. Because it's more than just teaching it a certain school regiment, like this happened in history, then this happened, then this happened. That's not enough. That's not enough to manage reality. That's not enough to manage the narrative of history, of presidents, of leaders who have all the power, allegedly, right? Who have all the weapons. The media that has the control to expose anything are warned off. They're always afraid to touch it. Why is that? Why is that? There should be no afraid to touch it. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But if it's not, it's worth your while to report on it. But there's some other level. There's some mockery. There's some dismissiveness. There's some, right? Isn't it? What is that? Something is most again, just bring it back out to the 20,000 foot view now. There are most conspiracy theories, quote unquote, that you hear are false. You have to admit that. To know what's true, you have to admit what's false. Most every MH370, the chemtrails in the air, Holocaust denial, things about epidemics, adrenochrome are lies. And you just have to say it and admit it, because you have to, again, if we're taking the big view of this, well, maybe these easily false stories and conspiracy theories are actually put in there on purpose to muddy the waters, because there actually is something that's real. One thing. It's like you get flood the zone, it's called, right? You're putting out 100 marbles on the table with one real one. I don't know, you throw 100 marbles out there with one blueberry. I don't know. You know what I mean? One of them's the real deal. But if your average person is looking, I got 10 or I got 50 or I've got 100 of these things to choose from, how do I know which one is actually legit? They're just going to give up. That's how you know something's to it. 99.9999% of these theories don't have any evidence attached to them. They have people going on rants. We're not talking about decades worth of paper trails, money trails, testimonies, videos, and everything else. Only one theory has that. And it's the one that keeps getting pushed aside, covered up, lied about, mystery drones, FAA approved. Okay, that's how you know. That's how you know. That's the giveaway. It's no one believes that. Nobody, Mr. Trump, believes that complete cockamamie story. Nobody in your party, nobody in the other party, even Nancy Mace, she's lying through her teeth because she's been bought and paid for. She's been promised the governorship of South Carolina, I'm sure. I'd bet $1 on that. And apparently that's more important to her than the truth. And her claims to be a Christian are frustrating. But power works every time. Money and power work, it seems like every time. So they keep going back to it. Okay, you're close to exposing the truth here, Nancy Mace. You've got this whistleblower from Immaculate Constellation. But you're not willing. Okay, here's a document, but you're not willing to put him on the stand or bring him out. And you're saying you're on vacation. This just happened. If you don't know what I mean, don't worry about it. Literally, just yesterday, I saw she claims to have been on vacation. That's why she doesn't know anything about Matthew Brown. Liar. So this is how we know something so obvious. The point is, I only brought her up because she's the only person I've ever heard who said, oh, well, if Donald Trump says it, I believe it, in regards to the mystery drone being FAA approved. Nobody believes that's true because it's not. Mr. Transparency, and I'm going to get to the bottom of everything and get the deep state exposed and the swamp drained, lied about it. Or was lied to about it and didn't care to expose that. And accepted what he was told and was a good boy. Just like the good boy Joe Biden and every other good boy and girl. Whoever told, this is what you're going to say, you better say it. It's for national security, quote unquote. You don't want this coming out. It'll freak people out, man. Maybe it will. But guess what? The longer it goes on, the more freaked out we're going to be. Now it's generational problems. Now many generations now are under this curse, thanks to you, little group of people who think you know better. And this is just natural consequences. This is where's God in this? God is allowing you to get the leadership you allow. That's what you want. Here we go. Reap what you sow. We're reaping it. And we've been reaping it since at least 1962, 63. Right? Between the Cuban Missile Crisis, that Blue Grill test, and the assassination of JFK, I think that's the real turning point. We decided, well, we've had this, at that point, we had the secret now for, since Roswell has been 15 years, we've officially decided the secrecy is our policy up until then. And the president's trying to change that policy, and we're going to say we're more powerful than you. We decide the policy. And no one's ever challenged it since then. Nobody. So there's that alternate track. I looked at it as the split, basically. And again, it goes all the way back to not only the 40s before that, but the 30s before that. So there's an alternate track that had been forming, and now it's official policy to have the two tracks. Alternate, which is the real reality, and the one that the history that we're given, we're allowed to see. That's a problem. It's a problem for America, my country, as a patriotic American. Gets me very annoyed, angry. Yes, but you're not only screwing with your own country, you're screwing with the whole world. Every nation is hurt and cursed now because of what you're doing. Now, I don't care if you think it's for the best interest of whatever. Okay. Don't just like it. Please share this and ask questions if you like. And now we're going to go to Bond Servant. because she's always thinking. She's always got good stuff going on in her brain. There's gotta, she says, so deceptive and wicked, and then she says there's got to be some threat that makes them step back. Can't be as simple as bribery. I wouldn't go that far, bondservant. Why can't it be as simple as bribery? I mean, a threat is a threat. If you don't say, we'll do, you'll get this out of it. It's transactional. It's human nature. It's sin nature. People will be hurt if you say this. People will be hurt. Meaning, well, whatever the hearer understands that to mean is what it means. If you be a good little girl, we're going to let you be governor. That's what you want, right? You can do the most good as governor. Oh, you're right. I can. So you appeal to their quote unquote good nature by saying it's better for you and for the people of America if you don't say. So based on all that, and again, the public record of people not standing up to it, you got to think the only one with any guts in this was Kennedy. If you want to get in here before we shut down for the day, I'm willing to hang. This is the Unsealed podcast, official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. By the way, I am available. If you see at the bottom, by the way, become a member on YouTube or X. Get my books and more at wingsoftheeagle.com/store, which you will find The Hypothesis, #1, the newest thing I've produced, which is a full write-up and explanation of what I think is really going on with the U.S. UFO situation and the government cover-up and all the rest. It's different. Trust me, you've never heard it before. I've never heard it before, and I look for all the hypotheses. I look for all the theories, and I'd never heard anything like that. So check it out. There's also how it ties into biblical prophecy, the UFO weapons that we're apparently trying to make. Of course we are, because we're stupid, murdering humans. But that aspect of it may be, again, not over. Maybe we succeeded in developing a weapon. Maybe whoever's behind this UFO thing is going to bequeath, going to give a gift, a dark gift, to a nation in the Middle East, let's say, to use our weapons against your enemies. Let's say. That could be coming around the corner. Okay, so that's why I wrote the little book that you can find on wingsoftheeagle.com, a direct download PDF, or if you want to get on Amazon in book form, in audiobook, you can. But it's called Iran, Prophecy, and UFO Weapons. It's also a prepper guide for Americans, because that's what we always like to talk about. We can't get over the prepping thing. Okay. So I wrote a little bit on that. And of course, we got Flee to the Mountains, my book from 2019, available as well on all those formats. Again, go to wingsoftheeagle.com, get it directly on PDF, direct download instantly, or go to Amazon if you want a physical copy or audiobook and stuff. Yeah. So it's not over. That's the message. And if we're in at a certain point, it can't continue forever. Even though the secret keepers want it to continue forever, it can't. It's just unnatural. The reality will break through. Jesus will break through this, and we're going to learn everything. We're going to learn absolutely everything. I don't mean in heaven, in an ethereal way when you die, even though I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying, in front of the world, everything will be exposed. Everything will come to the light. Nothing will be hidden anymore. Nothing. So I hope those secret keepers know that their judgment is coming and they cannot avoid it, no matter what they do, no matter how long they prolong this. You're going to be judged very harshly, friends. Ethereal is the word of the week. I didn't even know that. Thank you, Madam Rex. On X, Madam X. Yeah, Ethereal's cool. And we're going to find out eventually, but it's better to do the exposing, not the covering up. Can we agree on that? It's better to do the exposing, not the covering up. It's better to do the exposing, not continuing the cover up. And I don't care if you think you're exposing something, but if you're going to hide behind your NDAs and your contractor status for America, oh, well, I can't say this. I won't have a job anymore. Tough. Join the club. I mean, seriously, what do you want? You want the easy way where you get to work for a living and have $1 million or whatever, make a couple $100,000 this year, and try to get disclosure from the biggest secret that's ever been in the history of your country? Get real, man. Grow up. I did a podcast, I don't know, a year ago now, maybe more, on the similarities between the early church, early Christians, the civil rights movement, and the disclosure efforts going on now on this topic. And it's the only progress, the only movement you're going to really get. You'll get a little if you're not willing to risk it all. But until you're willing to risk everything, it won't come out. It won't change. If the Christians weren't willing to die for their testimony, Christianity would have petered out and it would never have went anywhere. If the civil rights leaders weren't willing to be whipped, hosed, beaten, thrown in jail, and killed, if they weren't willing to do that, there would be no civil rights movement. I'm telling you, I'm sorry, it's just real. This is real reality, which is that if you know secrets that you're not willing to expose because you don't want to go to jail in your mind, if you're not willing to do that, you're not serious. You're not really fighting for anything. Matthew Brown seems like he has made the right decision. Like all the way. He's given up on a family. He's given up on, he says he knows he's under threat. He says he knows he can go to jail, but he doesn't care. Hallelujah. Okay, that's what's needed. I respect the heck out of, look, David Grush is a hero. He is. And his story is not over. There's something else coming from him. But because he just gave it up. He's just like, I quit. I can't do this anymore. I'm doing everything I can. And he's trying to do it the within the bounds of the game, just like Brown did. I got to get this cleared with Dopser and all this stuff. Why would you do that? I don't know. Maybe he's smarter than me. He is smarter than me, no doubt. But at a certain point, you got to say, I don't care if you put me in jail for this. I'm putting it out. Because apparently it's not coming out any other way. It's not going to come out the legal way. It's not going to come out the Dopser way. It's not going to come out the keeping my clearances way. It's not going to come out the I get to keep my cushy contractor job kind of way, Lou Elizondo. I'm not trying to poo-poo on Lou. I love Lou. I love what he's doing. I think he's doing the right thing for the right reasons, but it's not far enough. It's clear now after how many years ago? This is almost, 8 years ago that he came out to the New York Times. And yeah, there has been substantial movement in those of us who are paying attention, yes. But to the wider world, are the gatekeepers panicking in their boots? Has any change happened? Has any revelation really come? Has anyone admitted any wrongdoing? No. oh, well, we got Congress and we got all these Congress people on our side and committees. Nah, no committees. Nah. We can't subpoena anyone. We don't have any power really. We're just going to put a little show over here. Senate hasn't done jack in public. Nothing. What about, again, Matthew Brown? Listen to him and you will realize that he is implicated are Marco Rubio and Kristen Gillibrand. At least those two senators who were very outspoken once upon a time, all of a sudden have clammed up. And they were lied to their faces by Arrow, by Kirkpatrick. And this is recent. This is not 10 years ago or 20 years ago. This is Kirkpatrick's in his report. What was that? 2023, right? Somebody correct me on that. I think it's less than 2 years. Maybe it was less than one. Maybe it was 2024. This is new. This is just happening. Well, okay, it had to be before the election and all that stuff, and before when Marco was on the Senate, head of the Senate subcommittee, blah, 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 blah. So 2023-ish, okay? It's not even 2 years old. Where Marco Rubio is saying to Kirkpatrick's face, what is the executive branch doing? Have they been keeping this secret for 80 years? So what the heck does that mean, Marco? You've got to open up your trap and start talking. You have immunity right now, Marco Rubio. You have immunity. You have the president who's very dictatorial, and if you come out against him, you're in trouble, but he has given you the seal of approval. He just said you could be his successor. Great language there, Donald. You could be his successor as president one day. There's nothing you can do that will tick him off. So just do it. You have immunity now. No one's going to touch you. Everyone knows who you are. You're a very public figure. You're the guy who could do something about you immediately, won't. Come on, Marco. Let's go. Gillibrand, if you're serious, now I know people are divided on her, and I understand why, but let's have it. If it's really input, this is what kills me. After all this time, after all the NDAAs, right? The non-human intelligence and the UAP language and all this stuff, reverse engineering, all this stuff is in law now. That's why Arrow exists. It's in the law. These are parts of the Defense Authorization Act for 2 years in a row. Not as great as it could have been, but still they're there. If this is really true, this is the top priority. This is number one. It doesn't matter about healthcare, doesn't matter about the budget, doesn't matter about Doge, doesn't matter about taxes. Nothing matters more than that. How can you pretend it doesn't? How can you say it's the most important thing ever and then say, oh, I don't have time for that. I got a meeting. If you're in a position to do something about it, understand people in their podcasts, whatever, they have other things to do with their life. Okay, because they don't have any ability to do anything. We don't. Other than harass our representatives. And when we do that, and they come to you and say, we're trying, but it's not high on the priority list, we gave up. That means you gave up. You don't really either. There's some kind of disconnect. There's some kind of cognitive disconnect going on where you believe it's the most important thing, but you don't act like it. Well, a Christian would say, you're known by your fruit, not your words. Or out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Like what's really in there is what's going to come out. If what really comes out when you're in public and when you can do something when people are listening is not talk about the biggest secret ever, that means your heart really doesn't want to expose that secret. It means you really want to keep it. You want it to continue, or you don't want to be troubled with the trouble of the consequences. Oh no, consequences. If you know the truth and if you're trying to expose something, and you know it's evil, and you know it's there, and it's right in your house. What if I knew there was some evil, I don't know, some evil murderer in my basement or whatever, and he's living there? What if I don't tell my family? What if for some reason I knew it, but no one else did? That's kind of what it is. They're supposed to run the house, and you're endangering all the other occupants. From the secret keepers, from the phenomenon, all of that is now a danger to every single person in the house because you think you can't do anything about it or you won't. Right? Think about that. Anyway, so there you have it. Alternate history, alternate reality. They're the same thing. I've come to the conclusion that they are the same thing. You can't have one belief about what happened in your history. And again, guys, this is not ancient history. We're not even talking about ancient history. We're talking about modern history. We're talking about it's happening right now within your lifetime kind of history. I do make a conscious decision not to be upset by everything in the world. I don't want to have to watch murder on my feed. I don't want to hear bad news every daggone second of my life. Because it hurts me. It hurts your soul. It will make you take you out of action. If your brains are like mine and Metarex, especially, you get overloaded and you shut down. All of a sudden, you're no good to nobody, including yourself. That's not good. But I can choose to concentrate on one or two issues. And if I can make any kind of dent, if I can make any kind of, or motivate someone else to make any kind of dent or progress, to push that forward, then that's what I have to do. All right, friends. Thanks for your time, your consideration, and for sharing, which I know you will do. Please refer to the YouTube link if you're watching this on X or Facebook. That's great and all, but YouTube's where it's at. So please become a member if you're interested. I guess stand by. Stand by for more info because I'm not going to disengage, and I hope you don't either. So support the people who are doing the right thing. Hopefully that includes me and Wings of the Eagle because we are committed to it. All right. Till next time, friends. This is the Unsealed podcast, official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. And by the way, if you're watching live on Friday, May 9th, or listening live, we were going to have a Q&A later today. So come at me with any questions you've got about this or any other issue, Christian church or otherwise, 4 p.m. Eastern today. All right? All right. See you then.